2019 meeting of the Bethel Village Council to order. Would you please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come together this evening. Please guide us in our decisions that we make this evening. Let them all be for the betterment of the village of Bethel. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Mr. Coogan? Here. Ms. Shepherd?
Here.
Ms. Hallfield?
Here.
Ms. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Noble? Here. Ms. Brown?
Here. All right, thank you. Now, if you've all examined the August 8th, 2019 minutes, and if there are no amendments or adjustments to those, I'd entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for August 8th, 2019 as read.
I'll second that.
Does he need to call the roll on that? Yes. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Mr. Coogan? Yes. Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hallfield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to communications, and I believe we have Mr. Redden on our agenda tonight. Yes. He's in-
Introduce myself,
Yes.
Bob Redden from the community. Actually running for the Tate Township trustee. So I know some of you, but I don't know all of you, so I wanted to take this chance to come up and for your support. I've lived in the community since, we actually built a house on Sugar Tree, bought part of the Fagley's property in '86. Built a house out there. Both my daughters graduated from Bethel. I actually was the first class through Grant when they built Grant School. We were I took auto mechanics there. So I was 35 years with the government. I worked in the post office as a postmaster, and then I went to headquarters on facilities. So we worked on the issues with, expansion and growth and closings and, whatever it took to keep offices functioning and save money. So I thought now that I've retired from there, I would, I'd like to get involved in the community. I coached up here for 9 years with the different teams, all 4 sports. Some of you, I saw you there when I was coaching. But so anyway, I thought I would come up and introduce myself and, see if anybody had questions or concerns. It's kind of where you're the main part of the township, Bethel is. So I think, over the years, if you've lived here a long time, you've seen a lot of things changing, but I'd like to be a part of that to bring some maybe new change. I'm not saying the people in there haven't done a great job, because they have, but I have different ideals and just like to try it. So anyway, I'm here to see if I can get your guys' support in this. Or I'm going to start, I have my signs have come in, so I think I can start placing those out now. So you just pop those up. I thought it'd be a good idea, so you'd know who's that. Put a face, put the name. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bob, you're the kind of the face behind the Holy House, right?
Yes, actually, the Holy House, I don't know if any of you ever had the opportunity to attend the Holy House here in town at the Methodist Church, Prior Methodist Church. But, I started that. And a few years back, we had that free day in the park. You remember, did anybody ever attend that? We had that free day in the park. We had 2 years where we had just like, let everybody come in and just enjoy a carnival. So I headed that up too. So it's, unfortunately, my job pulled me away. Really couldn't do those too often. So the Holy House was something that we've done along with a lot of other, mainly the people. The people help. So, yeah.
And I believe you have an infamous father-in-law also.
Yes, most people are going to know me by that. George Brooks' son.
The old fisherman in the newspaper.
George Brooks is my father-in-law, so that usually, okay. Now I know. I was either known as Michelle Redden's dad or George Brooks' son-in-law. So they don't have a name.
Well, I knew your name.
Yeah, I know, I've known you for a while. But anyway, yeah, George, the old fisherman, he's actually going to campaign for me.
Well, good. I'm sure he'll do a good job for you.
Yeah, he's going to stand up on the
Buddy?
campaign day.
Oh, will he be able to work at the polls
No,
if he does
cannot.
that?
He is,
Just-
and it really, for him, if you remember when he worked, he hugs everybody that comes in the
Yeah, oh,
vote.
yeah.
So this
yeah.
time you'll get a hug before you go. to vote.
Okay, that'll be
Because he
fine
has to
with us.
stay outside, yeah. It's really, it was hard on him, it was very
I
hard.
know, he's done that for years
Yes,
now.
ever since him and Ruth Ann did it for my mother-in-law, he did it for years and years. And when he found out he couldn't, he was so heartbroken. You know, he even talked to me about it, he even called the board of elections, and they're like, we're not, you can do it next, you just can't do it at all right now.
Nope.
He even thought about going to Monroe, because he knows about all the counties, so he was gonna go to Monroe Township, but then he's like, no, I'll stand up here and campaign.
He'll do good. Okay. All right, well, thank you, Mr.
I look
Redmond.
forward to know where to vote at.
Do you have anything, Mr. Dotson, for communications?
that's it.
All righty, then, moving on, we'll go to public input. Do we have anyone that would like to come up and stand before us and make any public input to us?
I have just a couple questions.
Come on up. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is David Smith. I'm new to the village, but I've lived in Claremont County for almost 40 years. I lived in Washington Township, right inside the little town of Laurel. My wife and I and son, we reached a point in our lives where we decided maybe we need to get out of the country and move a little bit closer to the city. And we've elected Bethel.
Close enough, huh?
Thank you.
Close enough. It's yeah, I mean, we've been up here many, many years, because this is where we always came to shop, eat. And we've been to all the shops here for years. But city life, yeah, it's a little bit different after spending 40 years out in the country, but we're getting used to it. My question, a couple of little questions that are a little large to me, is there a time period that you have to live in the village before that you could possibly run for an office?
1 year, I
1
believe.
year.
Is that correct? 1 year.
Is there, is it 1 year dead? Well, we closed on our property that we have here 6 days probably after that period, that 1 year period, which was 6 days after that. Second Tuesday of the month?
No, you're talking about for November, you mean?
Yeah, November, yes.
So the deadline's already passed to file to run.
Yes, I believe that was October, or August the 20th.
August, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, most places, well, when was the last write-in? But that was August the 28th.
The last
write-in was the
Yeah.
okay. I've never done this before,
Yeah.
but,
The Board of Elections will be helpful to you.
I'm sure. And I did stop down Batavia. I stopped down there once, it was after August, and they never even mentioned it. I didn't bring it up, but they didn't say anything about it either. So that was my question. I do like the community.
Good.
Maybe I'll find some way that I can contribute my time and my past experiences and
Okay.
maybe.
Well, you're more than welcome to attend the Communication Commission meeting. That's a public interaction meeting as well. We have the school board here, we have someone from the Ministerial Society, we have we have everyone elected for the members, but the public's allowed for that. I mean, that would give a lot of information about just all the entities in town and what we're trying to do to pull everybody together.
Is that in the newsletter where I can see?
No, that's probably one of our topics that we need to discuss on getting newsletters put out and stuff like that.
For
We've
someone
got,
like myself.
Yeah, and that's-
Community and-
We have a meeting on,
yeah, what is
yeah, so next Tuesday at 6:30 here, we'll have our communication, or Community Relations
yeah,
Commission.
Community Relations Committee meeting.
And next Thursday is the town hall, it's more of an open forum as well.
It's here also.
That's in the community center.
So,
Oh, over
Yeah.
here?
right,
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We have
Tuesday,
to-
though.
Next Thursday at 7 is the town
Next
hall.
Thursday, or there. Next Tuesday here?
Yes.
Okay, that's a place to start.
and I know Empower Youth is always looking for volunteers, and it's a great outreach in our community. We also have Shepherd's Place, which is after-school
Yeah,
program.
I've seen that.
So there's a ton of ways to get involved in the community, which is really good. I think, for a small community like we got.
All right.
I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. Welcome.
Welcome.
Anyone else for public input? If not, we'll move on to our administration and committee reports. I will speak first for Mr. Dotson, for Mayor Osmond with the Mayor's Court Report for the month of August of 2019. The total revenue for the month was $4,654.60, with $3,550 going to the village, $1,064.10 going to the state, and $40.50 to the county. And next, we'll hear from our administrator, Mr. Dotson.
The East Street project, which is last year's OPWC grant, that we had, the Public Works Supervisor and I met with the engineering group this week, and we walked most of that project, and it's still on target for having the engineering done this fall so that we can go out to bid around February for an early project next year. This year's OPWC grant application for the North Charity Street stormwater did very well. It was a top 3 project, so I would fully expect that we will get a notification of that being awarded sometime by the end of October, early November. So that would be also, that could potentially also be a project for the last half or the second half of next year. The South Union Street project, which was a CDBG grant from 3 or 4 years ago, that is to replace the bridge on South Union Street. The engineer has been selected for that through the county. So that engineering will also be done this fall with the intent of that also going out to bid by the county in the spring for next year. Completion of that. That's been a long project coming to fruition, but that should be done next year. And then on tonight's agenda is the legislation authorizing me to apply for the Claremont County Parks grant, which is a $20,000 grant that we will use in combination with the other funds to purchase the second phase of our playground upgrades. So that is on there for consideration later this evening, and I believe that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Now we'll hear from our fiscal officer, Mr. Gilpin.
Okay, I want to report that our 2017-18 financial audit is completed. We are going to have a post-audit meeting this Monday, September 16th. I believe it's at 10 a.m. 2 members from the state auditor's office are going to come in. We're going to review some changes that are taking place, some new regulations that we're going to need to know about moving forward. So we're going to meet with them Monday and make sure we're all in agreement with what needs to be done. Later on in legislation, we have Resolution 1037, which is for the amounts and rates, and that comes back from the County Budget Commission as a result of our tax budget that we submitted. And this resolution has to be approved and sent back to the auditor's office prior to the end of the month, so we'll need to waive the 3 readings on that and adopt that this evening. And then we've got the first readings on 3 others, which we do annually. The department rents, we call them, will increase by 1.7%. We do an annual adjustment based on the CPI, and the CPI, the most recent, was just released this morning. For the last 12 months unadjusted was 1.7%, so we used that figure. And then the transfers to the long-term water and long-term electric are on there. Those amounts stayed the same. And the one for the ordinance for transferring water to the, from the water to the water infrastructure fund, replacement fund, which is for our water system debt, I was able to lower that amount once we have a 1-year cash reserve in that that loan payment fund. I did the math and I was able to lower the monthly transfer by a little more than $500 a month compared to the one that was in place for this year, and we'll have the first reading on that one as well. That's everything I've got.
All right, thank you. Our solicitor, Emily Supinger, will report now, please.
Don't have a report tonight.
All
Thank you.
right. Then we'll move on to the chief of police.
Thank you. For the month of August, we drove 3,403 miles. We made 114 traffic stops, 33 citations for speed, 10 driving under suspensions, 25 miscellaneous charges, and 58 warnings. We answered 269 calls in the month. 37 of those calls resulted in offense criminal reports, 31 were incident reports. We had 9 total vehicle accidents in the village for the month. 8 of those were non-injury, 1 was with injury. Incidents and offenses, we had 5 disorders, 10 domestic disputes, follow-up investigations 9, suspicious vehicles was 36, thefts in progress and burglar alarms were 23, miscellaneous non-emergency calls were 147. We assisted the fire department, EMS department 7 times with fire and 71 for EMS runs. Since our last meeting, especially today, we assisted the Marshal Service down at 414 South Union Street trying to apprehend a gentleman at a federal warrant. We did not locate the gentleman. Last time we met, we had a missing child that was from Newtown that was in the Bethel area. I'm sure everyone remembers the big stink about it on Facebook. She has been located safely in Tennessee. She has been since returned to her parents in Newtown also. We had 1 discharge of a firearm inside the village limits. That was at Shoe Factory Apartments. And we had 1 public indecency involving a adult and a juvenile in the 100 block of West Osborne. The gentleman was exposing himself to the juvenile. September the 28th, we have Burkfest coming up. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. October the 4th is our annual homecoming football parade. That will line up at 5 p.m. at the middle school and go out to the high school. The kickoff is at 5:30. Traffic will be atrocious as usual. We also have Coffee with a Cop coming up. McDonald's has volunteered to host that. That is going to be on October the 2nd from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. The public is welcome to come to McDonald's, and it'll be an open forum between the police department and anybody that wishes to partake, and McDonald's is graciously supplying the coffee. And the last thing I have on my agenda for today is we are placing an order for a new vehicle for our cruiser fleet. It is going to be a 2019 Chevrolet 1500 Crew Cab. It will not come in until the first part of 2020, and the upfitting will be sometime in January, February of 2020. And I can't believe I'm saying 2020 because Y2K seemed like it was yesterday. So, and that is the last thing I have.
All right, thank you. And 1 note on the new vehicle that you're trying to purchase.
Yes.
That comes out of your budget,
Yes, that is correct.
so.
It is accounted for. We have approximately
Yes.
$43,000 in the capital improvement, and that vehicle right now without upfitting is $33,000.
And it does not have to be approved by anyone else?
That is correct.
That's their money, that's
That
their
is
money
correct.
to
That
spend
is
as they
in-
choose?
yes.
All right, thank you. Now we hear from our Safety Committee Chairman, Mrs. Hallfield.
Safety Committee met, Tuesday on the 10th at 5:30 in council chambers. We got a full report from Chief Teague. I'll get there eventually.
That's okay. Coming time.
Chief Teague, and several things he talked about tonight. And we also discussed a golf cart ordinance, which I believe we're still just tweaking and finalizing.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda tonight, so we will vote on that later on. Really talked about, I think you really covered everything, as he usually does. Our next meeting is November 12th at 5:30.
All right, thank you. I'll read the Finance Committee report. We met Thursday, September the 5th, here in the council chambers. We discussed at length the revenues, and Mr. Goodwin has informed us. We got our final real estate tax deposit, and it was a bit more than what we had expected, what we had certified actually by the county. Will that continue to be that way, or did we just collect a little bit more money?
They'll change what they certify for next year.
Okay, all right, thank you. Of course, he's already spoken to the resolution to accept the amounts and rates. The audit is totally 100% complete now.
Yes.
We do have to figure out a way, we got dinged on the audit for one thing, which is how to account for the deposit checks, refund checks that are never cashed. That's the purpose of the September the 16th meeting, is to find out how we can legally
That's the main reason, yes.
do that. I think that's all I have, because everything else has been touched on. Our next meeting will be October the 3rd at 5 PM in council chambers. Okay, now we hear from Parks and Village Properties Chairman, Mr. Coogan.
We met on Tuesday, the 10th of September, at 6:30 in the council chambers. We discussed the Burke Fest festivities coming up on the 28th of September. In the previous concert that we had, that I thought was successful for being a first concert here in the village. Everything went off without a glitch there. And we did look at a few things that may need a little bit of tweaking as far as the money side of things, like the bathrooms being one of the things. The bands, I can't go any cheaper, they're free. Anyways, we looked at this one coming up as a possible downfall as being the lighting. We have a lack of lighting, so we're going to have to suspend beer sales at around 7:30. We've already asked the American Legion to do so. And we also looked at possibly expanding out where the alcohol consumption could be for possibly next year, and maybe getting some sponsorship from some of the local businesses in funding some of the bigger bands that we'll be looking at for next year. I've decided to, beyond this, suspend any further band actions for the rest of the year, remainder of the year, and we'll start discussing future concert activity in December with the Legion in attendance. Additionally, as we discussed, the Phase 2 of the playground coming up, Mr. Dotson already discussed that part of it, and we're working on the grant on that still. We also discussed the dog park and possibilities of having one, but the thing that limits us from having this right now at this point in time is the lack of property here in the village. And what we're going to have to do is either get some donated property or look at other options, possibly hitting the school district for possible loaner property or something. So, but anyways, this is an ongoing type project that we're going to have to look at. We decided to have our next meeting on the 12th of November at 6:30, right behind the safety committee. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Now we hear from our Burke Trust Chairman, Stephanie Ross.
I have nothing to report this evening.
All right, thank you. And our Personnel Committee Chairman, Janessa Brown.
I have nothing.
All right, thank you. And our Communication Commission Chairman, Jay Noble.
Thank you. Like we said earlier, our next meeting is going to be the 17th, right, at 6:30. Even though we haven't had a meeting for a couple months, we still have a lot of the members working on some things. Leah Fields has been doing a really good job of following up on one of our homework pieces, which was trying to zero in on possibly having a tagline for all of, Bethel and everything, to put some, ownership with the residents and ourselves and pull that together so we can all have a common goal. Right now, I was looking on Facebook to pull it up so I could give you guys the options of what the poll was that she had, but I can't remember all of them. But the one that's blowing all of them out of the water right now, which is close to 300 votes, is Small Town, Big Heart. So I know that Bethel Proud was one.
I'm trying to get it to pull
Better
out.
in Bethel, I think.
Better.
And,
Better in Bethel, yeah, I think there's one.
So, but everything seems like it's more about small town, big hearts, so that's something that we'll talk about on Tuesday, and kind of see where that goes, if we want to do more polling, or if we want to act on it, or what, or make recommendations, or whatever we're going to do, but, I think that, that's a big part of concept of the committee and commission, and what we're trying to do to, hold hands, and then make the village better, and also the outside community of the township, so.
Yeah, those were the three.
What's that?
Bethel Proud.
Okay, Small Town, Big Heart, Bethel Proud, and Better in Bethel was the three that made it to the poll, so. And there's 298 votes for Small Town, Big Heart right now, 22 for Bethel Proud, and 8 for Better in Bethel, so. But that's all I got, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we'll have our call of members, and we'll begin with Mr. Coogan.
First off, I'd like to remind everybody about the town hall that will be next Thursday, the 19th, at 7 p.m. in the community center. And additionally, I've got my concert coming up on the 28th, and that's going to be from 12 to 8. I understand that the last day of the Brown County Fair is also happening on the same day, and I encourage everybody to attend both. Mine's free, theirs is costly. Anyways, we'll be having this in the park, and the American Legion will have some very low-cost food and beverage for you available, and we will have 2 meals there. So bring your kids. We got brand new playground equipment. Have them use it. Don't break it, but have fun. That's all I'm saying.
All right, thank you. And next, I have nothing this month. Now we'll hear from Mrs. Hollifield.
I don't believe I have anything this month.
Okay, and now Mrs. Ross.
Just briefly, I would like to thank the police department, mostly Corporal Breeze, and I believe it was Officer Houchin. We went out of town a couple weeks ago, and Corporal Breeze just happened to drive by and asked if we would like for him to keep an eye on the house, and we said that'd be great. And we actually have a camera outside our house, so we were notified every time they came by. So they did a really good job. I was very impressed at them, so I want to say thank you. They did a really good
I will
job.
pass it along to them.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good thing that people should use if you're going out of town, do the house checks and vacation checks, because they do a good job, and it shows, I think, people in the neighborhood that someone's still around. So. Just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Noble.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming. It's good to see you and welcome. And thanks for everyone else and for you coming in and let us know what you're running for and all that. We're trying really hard to move in the right direction and make the town better, and so I appreciate the attendance. And as far as everything else you can catch in the committee meetings pretty much, you can go online and listen to the meetings there and get caught up and up to speed on what's going on and communication and all that. We've got a lot of wheels spinning here, and we're getting a lot done. A lot of times people don't see it unless they actually listen to the meetings and come to the meetings and stuff like that. So I welcome you to the town hall meeting, welcome you to the communication commission meeting. And if you have any questions beyond that, I'm sure any one of us will be more than happy to discuss things with you guys. And you can get a hold of us on our emails on the website and so forth. So again, thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Brown.
All right, I just got a few things. One is Faith Chapel's having their Friends Day on September 15th at the Faith Chapel down across from Bantam Tire. If you're able to attend, that's always a fun event. Bethel High School students can donate blood on September the 19th, Thursday, which is always a great cause. People always need blood. I know my mom has benefited from blood donations, so I always encourage people to do that. The one thing that I did ask for Chief Teague to prepare, if possible, I know that crime takes precedence over it, but I did ask for kind of a rundown of what all the officers have done this year. Very high level, because of course there are certain things you cannot share with the public, but maybe so you can see that your taxes do go to an actual good cause, and that we do have some things that we still need police for. I'm also going to see if maybe Travis would be willing to show all the grant money that he's got the village on a one-pager for that event, just because that's also a way that we try to financially be responsible, yet still keep the village safe and functional. Thank you for all for coming. This is like the largest crowd for a while that we've had, so that's always nice. And good luck in your run, and also good luck in whatever future run you may have. It's always an admirable goal to try to serve in any way in a community, I will say. And that's pretty much all that I had. I don't know of any other events going on besides the upcoming park event that we have.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to legislation. See if I can find it here. This will be, I'm going to read ordinance number 1918, an ordinance authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer money from the electric operating fund to the electric extension and replacement fund, repealing all conflicting ordinances. And this will serve as a first reading for ordinance 1918. And then I'm going to read ordinance 1919, maybe. Ordinance 1919 is an ordinance authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer money from the Water Revenue Fund to the Water Extension and Replacement Fund, repealing all conflicting ordinances. And this will also serve as a first reading on that ordinance. And ordinance 1920, an ordinance authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer money from the Water Revenue Fund to the Water Infrastructure Replacement Fund. This will also serve as a first reading for ordinance 1920. In ordinance 1921, an ordinance setting rent for the electric and water departments and repealing all conflicting ordinances. This will also serve as a first reading. And ordinance 1922 is let me read it first. Ordinance 1922, an ordinance amending ordinance number 1915 to permit and regulate the operation of certain golf carts, utility vehicles, and other underspeed vehicles in the village of Bethel, Ohio. We need to waive the three reading rule on this ordinance.
I'll make a motion to waive the three reading rule on ordinance number 1922.
Second that.
Okay, would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Yes. Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, now I would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 1922.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 1922.
I'll second.
Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Okay. Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Holifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, now do we have any discussion or questions on ordinance 1922?
I can just briefly explain the difference. There were kind of two issues that were raised by the chief on the previous ordinance that was adopted. The first is that we had the licensing requirement that all golf carts be licensed kind of in the same place as the inspection checklist, and it was a little bit confusing because you don't get the license till after you've passed the inspection. So we moved that piece to later on in the ordinance, so it makes a little bit more sense as to where it's located. The other thing we did is we clarified that even though golf carts can only be operated on roads with a speed limit of 25 miles per hour or less, they can cross a road that is higher than 25 miles. That's 35 miles per hour. So that way you can cross Plain Street. Main Street, sorry.
Main Street from the north end of town to the south end of town is 35 miles per hour all the way through, so technically someone would be breaking the law if they went from the east side of town to the west side of town, even if they were on back streets the entire time. So what we did is we asked for an amendment that they can cross the higher speed but cannot operate on the higher speed.
Now, when we process and everything's in place, and these people get their vehicles checked out and everything's good to go,
Are they going to be provided a copy of the ordinance so that way they know exactly?
Sure,
what the letter is
absolutely.
about?
They can receive a copy of any of the ordinances through the village administrator, but I can also provide them as part of the ordinance, just a review with them that whenever they do come for the inspection, here are kind of our rules and regulations. Yeah, I actually was planning on putting that on like page 2 of the inspection sheet, and we had initially made up our own inspection sheet, and whenever I called the BMV and spoke with them, they said this is becoming a lot more common, and they no longer accept homemade inspection sheets, so they actually provided us with a BMV form, and I don't remember the form number off the top of my head, but we have to use their form for the inspection sheet. So they will be provided a operation guideline copy of this ordinance for what they can and can't do.
I have one question. It says that you still have to have a license plate on the front and the back,
Yes.
even though Ohio doesn't require
So
that
as-
anymore?
Still the law right now.
Correct. As of right now, the law is still in place that they have to require it, so whenever that does become law, that they no longer need a front license plate, we'll need an amendment to this.
And
Okay.
right now, I've heard there's efforts to undo that, so I don't even know if it's actually going to.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think I asked that one once too.
Okay, we are actually done with ordinance 1922 because we actually adopted it before we had discussion. So I'm going to try to do resolution 1037 a little better.
Does this need an emergency since we waived the 3, or no?
No, I mean, by the time it's up and running, it'll, we'll be within the 30 days.
If I can get it to come up. There we go. This is Resolution 1037, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. We will need to waive the 3 reading rule on Resolution 1037, so I'd entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
All right, thank you. Roll call on this.
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm confused as to what I need.
To adopt.
I entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 1037.
Make a motion we adopt resolution 1037.
Second that?
Now we can have discussion, please,
All right.
before we adopt it.
So can we just recap it for the people in the audience, what this will actually be for, Bill?
It's a resolution that we have to pass annually, and what it does is it states our millage, inside and outside millage. And in our case, we have 2 mills, inside millage of real estate taxes that come to the village. We have 0.3 mills of inside millage, that inside means not voted on, that goes to the police pension fund. And then outside millage, which are levies that have been voted on by the public, we just have 2. We have a 2 mil street levy, and we have a 1 mil police communications levy that pays the 911 bill and some other police communications issues. And that's all the millage we have on that document. And there's no change from prior years.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
This is just it's probably silly, but that is the reason for all of the blanks and the lines, is this is something you have to do every year, so you just put a new resolution number on it each year, you fill everything in, and it's just required by law.
The form is actually supplied to us by the Claremont County
Okay.
Budget Commission.
Gotcha.
All right, would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That resolution 1037 is adopted. I'll read resolution number 1038, a resolution authorizing the village administrator to apply for funding through the Community Park Improvement Grant. I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
We didn't suspend the rules.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need to waive the 3 reading rule on resolution 1038.
I move that we waive the 3 reading rule for resolution 1038.
I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Coogan. Call the roll, please, Mr.
Okay,
Gilpin.
just a moment. That was Ms. Brown and Mr. Coogan.
Mr. Coogan.
Okay. Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
All right, any discussion on Resolution 1038?
To adopt.
You should name it A, B, and C. I'm very,
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 1038.
thank you, Mr. Noble.
I'll second that.
Would you call the roll, please?
Now we went
No,
to
now discussion. I'm still doing it wrong. I can't do this, people. That's why he's going to be mayor.
So this is the Claremont County Community Park Grant. It allows up to 20,000. The project we're looking at is just over 100,000. If we do it this time of year, the manufacturer matches 50%, so that brings it down to in the 50,000, 60,000 range with installation. So hopefully this would cover 20. We've already received, I believe, 24,000?
I think it's 25.
25,000 from the Burke Trust to help fund this as well. So this will be, even if we don't get this, it's still manageable, but this will be our first time applying for the Claremont County Improvement Grant. So if we get it, that'll just help make up most of the matching funds that we have for the project. And this is for 2 to 5-year-old playground equipment, which will complement the 5 to 12 that we have in place.
So it's brand new equipment for 2 to 5-year-old children.
Correct.
It's not 2 to 5-year-old
It's not
equipment.
2 to 5-year-old.
It's going to go where the other equipment is.
It's going to go where the old equipment is currently standing.
So
yes.
a question from some children, will there still be swings?
The swings are still going to be there, yeah, and we can look at new swings eventually, but those are, swings
Okay.
are functional, but
Okay.
yeah, the swings are not going to be removed.
Okay.
Are we able to donate the old equipment to any organizations that may?
There's a liability issue with that, it's not recommended that you do so.
All right.
Okay, anything else?
That's all, I believe.
Can we call the roll now?
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
And can we move on to approval of expenses, Mr. Gilpin? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I trust that everyone has looked at the expenses for the month here, and I would entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion, we approve the monthly expenses for August.
Second that.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Gilpin?
Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, now I would entertain a motion for the payment of the bills and expenses for the month of August.
I move we pay the bills.
Second that.
All right.
It's hanging up on me.
That's not showing up on my screen at all. When you get a chance, would you call the roll?
Yeah, as soon as, who made the motion and who seconded it on this
I
one?
made the motion, Janessa
And
seconded.
Janessa.
I'm going to go back to the last one, though. I'm not sure it saved the last one. It did not.
The vote did not come up on my screen on the...
No, I couldn't, I kept clicking it. If we go back to the approval expenses, do we remember who?
Stephanie and I second.
That's what I thought. Okay. Still not wanting to take it all of a sudden. Now, it's got it now. Okay. Now we can move on. Okay. If it will let me. Now we're there. Okay. Do we have a motion and a second for the
We did.
payment of bills? Do we remember who
Yeah,
that
we
was?
did. Dawn moved it.
Janessa.
And I second.
And you said?
Jennifer.
Just- Okay. Thank you. See if it'll open this time. Yes, okay. Mr. Coogan?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Ms. Hollifield?
Yes.
Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Noble?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We don't have a need for an executive session, do we? Okay, we'll move for an adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.